Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. I wanted to let everybody know that on June 21st, the Tesla Owners Club of Michigan will be hosting a Tech Day 2025 in Muskegon, Michigan. I know the organizer, there will be robotics and AI presentations, so if you're in the area or willing to travel, put this on your calendar, and if you want more information, just head to teslamichigan.org. And of course, there will be some speakers from the Tesla community, and my guy, Brian White from Futuraza, is going to be the host and moderator. And no, this is not sponsored in any way. I'm just friends with the organizer. We talk offline, and I wanted to give this event a shout out. So if you're able, go show some love for Tesla owners of Michigan. According to Bloomberg, Tesla has finally actually applied, as of late last year, for the Transportation Charter Carrier Permit, it's called, from the California Public Utilities Commission. This classification means Tesla would own and control the fleet of vehicles. In talks with these California officials, Tesla went over driver's license information and drug testing coordination, suggesting Tesla may be using human drivers at least out of the gate. But Tesla is applying for the same type of permit that is used by Waymo. And as we know now, for paid rides, Waymo is fully driverless. Elon did make it clear that Tesla will just be dipping its toes in the water, so the rollout may be a bit more gradual, and supervisors to begin is an option. And while Tesla does have approval to test autonomous vehicles with a safety driver in California, it does not have, nor has it applied for, a driverless testing or deployment permit from the state's Department of Motor Vehicles. A spokesperson said that Tesla's application is pending and not yet public. Elon said recently there's a bunch of work that needs to be done to make sure the whole thing works efficiently when it comes to the robotaxi network. Tesla will also need a rideshare license with the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, and as of early February, Tesla had not had communication with the department, nor is Tesla currently listed as a rideshare licensee on the department's website. It's good to see Tesla finally get things moving in California, as it may take a few months to get everything they need with all of the regulations there, but in Texas, as mentioned, given that they have not yet applied for a rideshare license, I wouldn't be too worried about that, because given the regulatory environment, that may only take a few weeks. At least for now, the permit Tesla is applying for is called the Transportation Charter Party, and why that matters is because this one would allow Tesla to transport passengers, but initially with employees as drivers. This permit is usually for chauffeur service operations, so maybe Tesla is planning to roll things out that way. I say that because for Tesla to offer a fully autonomous ride without a supervisor, Tesla would need additional permits from the California DMV beyond just the one they're applying for right now. And that's the one where so far the reporting is Tesla has not yet sought that permit. So it's certainly encouraging. Just remember what Elon said about Tesla planning to dip its toes in the water. Sawyer shared a post talking about Adam Jonas and how he recently took a ride in a development vehicle from a company, Wayve, based out of the UK, and the vehicle used 7 cameras, no radar, no LiDAR, no HD maps, and no labeling, all end-to-end AI foundation model. Naturally, there are now plenty of questions about how this compares to what Tesla is doing, and it's great timing because just a few months ago I had a conversation offline with a subscriber of mine about this very company. Just to bring everybody up to speed, Wayve's been around since about 2017, and they have raised over $1 billion from some big name companies like SoftBank and Microsoft. Just know Wayve plans to go to market with a very different strategy compared to what Tesla's doing. Wayve has made the claim that its software is going to be hardware agnostic, meaning they're looking to partner up with OEMs to license its autonomous vehicle software. So far, Wayve has not offered any driverless rides. They're still doing testing with human safety drivers. Not only is Wayve doing testing over in the UK, probably with a fleet of maybe a few dozen vehicles, but they're also doing some testing here in the States in San Francisco. Last year, Wayve did announce a new partnership with Uber, as they're looking to have level 4 driving with Wayve's technology on the Uber platform by 2026. But first, to do that, that, of course, Wayve is going to need to train its system to learn how to drive on the other side of the road. In London, Wayve has used Jaguar I-Pace vehicles, and in San Francisco, Wayve has been using Ford Mach-E's. But I think one of the biggest takeaways here is that yes, Wayve is indeed taking the same approach to solving for autonomy, the end-to-end learning model. And again, one of the main differences, while Tesla may look to license FSD more as a cherry on top to its base case for robotaxis, Wayve's entire business model is dependent on licensing its software to other OEMs. One of the reasons I think it makes so much sense to pay attention to a company like Wayve is because they have such limited real-world data. Again, yes, they've been around for a few years, but it's not like they have some massive vehicle fleet with thousands or millions of vehicles driving around collecting data around the world. It's really been in a few areas in and around the UK and then in San Francisco. Given that there's not a ton of publicly available information about the company, it's really tough to determine how robust its model actually is because again, with demos, you always have to take them with a grain of salt. And that's not at all to diminish the work that Wayve is doing because they could actually be a competitor when it comes to licensing FSD. If companies like Ford, GM, and Stellantis end up going that route, which all indications are that they will, Wayve could be a viable option. For all the same reasons I mentioned before, the main ones being these companies do not want to give Tesla more money, a company that actually makes electric vehicle competition. Wayve, on the other hand, has no plans to fit that bill. The last thing I'll say, while some of Wayve's cutting-edge development vehicles are camera only, they still have a significant part of their fleet that is equipped with radar. You may remember we did a segment on Wayve last year when we heard that Nvidia took up an investment in the company, but now given that they're looking more toward the US market, we'll cover them closer going forward. And now I'm just speculating here, but there is a world where the reason Ford has not yet licensed Tesla's FSD is because they're already in this existing partnership with Wayve. But it's still early days for the company and Wayve has not yet signed any specific licensing deal with any OEM. So for now it's early, but Wayve is definitely a name to watch. Trump is sticking to his guns, vowing to impose 25% tariffs on imports from the EU. So obviously, if this were to be implemented, this would hurt companies like VW, Audi, Mercedes, BMW, all of those European companies that produce vehicles there and import them to the US. And yes, I know some of those companies have production facilities here in the United States, but it's definitely not 100% of their sales in the US coming from those factories. And it's always fascinating to me to watch how the media reports on all of these stories. So for example, you have all of these headlines from sources that lean left politically. This one says Donald Trump says the EU was formed to stick it to the US. Whereas this headline from the right is much more benign. Trump says 25% import tariffs on EU to be announced soon. At the same time, we have Trump saying 25% tariffs for Mexico and Canada will start on March 4th. I just hope you're all very aware about how our cultural zeitgeist is being manipulated based on how the media reports the same story. And I have access to all of this exclusive data, like who actually owns every source and the factuality of every source, so I don't waste time reading articles that don't have a lot of data. This is all made possible thanks to the sponsor of this video, Ground News. Ground News is both a website and an app developed by a former NASA engineer who's on a mission to give readers an easy, data-driven, and objective way to read the news. And currently, they're offering Electrified viewers 40% off their Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access. So every breaking story around the world comes with a quick visual breakdown of the political bias, the factuality of the source, the ownership of the source, and it's all backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. As I've said before, one of the most eye-opening features for me recently has been the bias comparison tool. This highlights specific differences in reporting across the political spectrum. So look, if you ever wanted to know why people online seem to be talking right past each other, just a few minutes using this tool and you will have your answer. I've been calling it my agenda spotter, and let's just say it saved me plenty of time. So if you'd like to cut through the noise of today's chaotic media landscape, I'm confident Ground News is worth a look look, as it's become my favorite way to stay informed. And again, if you want to grab that 40% off the Vantage plan, you can use the QR code right on the screen, or you can head to ground.news/electrified, linked below. Good news for Tesla, as they've convinced a Florida appeals court to limit the damages it could be forced to pay in a wrongful death lawsuit. The appeals court overturned a judge's decision from 2023 that said a jury could award punitive damages, not just compensatory. But the appeals court said the evidence indicates Tesla's autopilot features were state-of-the-art and complied with all industry and regulatory standards. The appeals court also said Tesla cannot be liable for failing to provide technology that it did not advertise and that did not exist, which is a confusing way of saying that Tesla was not advertising that autopilot was ever fully autonomous. The Electric, not Electrek, has an exclusive report that the Biden administration, on its last workday, informed major automakers that there was a new ruling that would make it much harder to qualify for the tax credit starting in 2027. In letters to Ford, GM, Tesla, and others, the DOE said the administration blacklisted China's BTR New Material Group, the world's largest supplier of EV battery-grade graphite anodes. In other words, they were dubbed a foreign entity of concern, which isn't great because the industry regards BTR's anodes as consistently among the industry's best. The company's plants in China supply about 25% of the world's graphite anodes. We talked recently about how the supply chain outside of China for graphite is quite limited, especially when you look at the US. It's going to take years to build that up, and we do have companies in the US like Novonix and Syrah. Novonix is looking to start production next year, but late last year, Syrah Resources actually declared force majeure at a plant in Mozambique for graphite. And because of that, now Syrah's plant in Louisiana is in jeopardy. And listen, I know the tax credits might go away before 2027 anyway, but this one did make me laugh, as in response to this, GM signed a supply deal with Norway's Vianode. Fun fact, Vianode has never made commercial-scale graphite anodes. From Benchmark Mineral Intelligence, the US and Ukraine are exploring a critical minerals deal. This would give the US access to Ukraine's critical minerals in return for military support. No worries, we're not diving into any politics here. I wanted to highlight it though because the US may be able to secure things like lithium, graphite, nickel, and rare earth elements. For now though, it's far too soon to predict how this will actually play out. This is one that's going to play out over years, not necessarily months, but we know China's goal has really been to have all of these auto EV companies battle it out, and then only the strong will survive, knowing that most companies will end up dying in the end. Well, that's already happening, and some of these owners that bought EVs from these younger companies that have gone out of business are now stuck with vehicles that are becoming quickly obsolete. And naturally, these customers in that situation are talking on social media saying things like, I would definitely opt for a well-established brand next time. So as more Chinese customers wake up to this unfortunate reality, that could over time be a slight tailwind for Tesla given how established they are. We have the nomination for the number 2 role at the Pentagon saying that the US needs to have its big manufacturers like GM and Ford participate in defense production to broaden the industrial base and to keep up with China. If this were to happen, it would mean two things. GM and Ford would likely get some lucrative contracts that delay their demise when it comes to the transition to EVs, but it would be a double-edged sword because that would mean less time, attention, and resources spent on transitioning to EVs. Alright, listen, I've been covering Tesla now for over 5 years on a daily basis. I think this may be one of the worst accidents I have ever seen. So as to not bury the lead, apparently the driver of this Model 3 walked away from this with only scratches, which I'll be honest, looking at these pictures is very hard to believe. The officer at the scene of the crash said the Model 3 performed better than anything they have ever seen. Roshan Thomas, the VP of supply chain at Tesla, said, "What a miracle. The ultra-strong, hot-stamped door ring part of the body structure likely shielded the occupant from such a heavy impact. It was a costlier option when we introduced it to the Model 3 back in 2017, but we firmly believed it was the right choice for customer safety." So yeah, go ahead, shout all you want about whatever political nonsense, make fun of me for owning a Tesla, but I will never feel bad for 1 second knowing I have myself and my family in the safest vehicles on the road. Jim Farley just said their upcoming lower cost EVs, you can't put a level 3 electric architecture in it. So we're not going to have LiDAR systems and all sorts of sophisticated sensor set because it won't be affordable. It'll have its own electric architecture, which is great, but we're not going to put all the bells and whistles on it at that price point. The unfortunate reality for Ford here is that their lower cost EVs will maybe be at a similar price point to what Tesla is launching this year for its more affordable models, and Tesla's vehicles may be capable of level 5 by the time Ford comes to market with their next gen EVs. Going back to Wayve, given that their claim is that their software is hardware agnostic, it's almost like a partnership with Wayve would be Ford's only chance for their lower cost EVs. But without it, unfortunately, I'm thinking that Ford's more affordable EVs may be DOA. It's unfortunate that it's come to this, but some Tesla locations now have security from dusk until dawn. Right now on the Model 3 configurator, if you choose the 19-inch Nova wheel option, you'll see the long-range rear-wheel drive has a range of 343 miles, where the all-wheel drive is now at 332. And then looking at the Wayback Machine for earlier this month, you'll see the rear-wheel drive was only 322 miles of range and the all-wheel drive was only 316. What that means is Tesla's showing an extra 21 miles of range for the entry model and an extra 16 miles of range for the all-wheel drive Model 3. And notice for those two models, they just say the range is an estimate, whereas for the performance variant, it's an EPA estimate. So something's happening with the EPA in Tesla's 19-inch Nova wheels, but for now, there's a material boost to the advertised range. This one's a head scratcher. We have Elon and Tesla stock now getting pushback from the American Federation of Teachers, one of the nation's biggest labor unions. The president of the AFT, Randy Weingarten, is writing to the CEOs of 6 asset managers, including names like BlackRock and Fidelity. She's calling on them to review Tesla's current valuation, saying,
"This is about safeguarding workers' retirements. Just this week, we saw Tesla stock continue to sink faster than a Cybertruck in quicksand as European sales fell off a cliff, so we knew we needed to act."
So it's like, okay, Karen, clearly you're an expert on all things Tesla. Maybe you should open up your own hedge fund. She's also making the argument that Tesla is overvalued. So Randy, if you see this, you're welcome to come on the channel and discuss your position. And the cherry on top, she said the stakes are big. If it were to decline to the price target of $135 that some analysts have projected, the resulting loss would be 1.2% of asset owners' total S&P 500 indexed portfolio. So yeah, I'm not going to waste your time further with this one, and I'd be confident in saying if we were to ask Randy what hardware 4 is, she would have no idea. Yet for some reason, she's qualified to tell the CEOs of some of the largest companies on the planet managing trillions of dollars what they should be doing with their Tesla investment. Okay. Sundar Pichai from Google said, exciting Waymo milestone. Waymo 1 is now serving 200,000 plus paid trips every week across LA, Phoenix, and San Francisco. That's 20x growth in less than 2 years. Up next, Austin, Atlanta, and Miami. Waymo was only at 150,000 paid trips as of October 29th last year. From an annual run rate perspective, 150,000 a week is about 7.5 million paid rides per year, whereas 200,000 per week is 10 million paid rides per year. Nissan is looking to replace its CEO, but for this one, it may be too little, too late. We now have all 3 of the major credit grading companies listing Nissan's ratings as junk. We have some more feedback on Tesla's FSD in China coming out from Ray for Tesla. This drive was the most silky smooth and confident one among all systems this user tried previously on this particular stretch of road. This blogger said after using FSD, she believes FSD's capabilities place it in the top tier of China's autonomous driving market, and with how infrequently it's been trained on local data, I think that's an excellent start. Another Chinese EV influencer shared his impressions after 2 hours, and it made it to the top of the trending list, which may be why Elon said, I heard it was the leading topic on Douyin. The blogger said, smooth, stable, and confident. Over nearly 2 hours, there was not a single moment that startled us. The overall security was strong, FSD handled pedestrian and non-motorized vehicle avoidance naturally. It's aggressive but efficient. Every time we exited a main road, as long as the system determined it was safe, it accelerated decisively. However, there were a few moments when, without a lead vehicle to follow, we had to manually press the accelerator to prompt a response. U-turns are supported. Out of 3 attempts, only 1 was successful. Twice, the system misidentified the correct U-turn location. On parking, FSD automatically pulled over to look for parking. If a spot was available, it prompted a P for confirmation. If no spot was found, it awkwardly remained at the curb. It successfully identified entry and exit gates. It also seemed capable of some free roaming within these areas. We also tested a 180-degree turn inside, but without a reverse function, it just got stuck. It's not clear if it just didn't reverse in this scenario or if that feature is not offered with this software release. It navigated roundabouts well, like an experienced driver. It had overly sensitive driver monitoring, which sounds familiar, but in China for now, it's a torque-based steering system rather than the eyes on the road system we have in the States. Overall, from the passenger seat, I found the first version to be impressive, exceeding my expectations. However, the general consensus right now, FSD is extremely human-like, unlike any other Chinese system, and it's confident, driving silk smooth like a seasoned human driver, cautious to pedestrians and mopeds. Areas of improvement: recognition of bus lanes, bike lanes, and traffic lights, picking correct lanes to go straight or turn left at intersections. So if you had any doubts that this is not the FSD we know and love, I think those are now erased. It sounds very similar to what we've experienced here in the States. So mostly good, a little bit of bad, but it looks like it's trending across China, which is perfect timing, giving the launch of the new Model Y. Tesla stock closed the day at $281.95, down 3.04%, while the Nasdaq was down 2.78%. So honestly, overall, Tesla stock held up fairly well today. It was a higher volume day, trading about 33% above the average. Don't forget, check out Ground News links below. If you like keeping up with the latest news, I really do believe Ground News will help you to do it much more efficiently. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X, linked below, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.